So I know I talk a lot about these, productivity, time management hacks that you can do, but what would actually happen if you actually use them? What would happen long term? Well, today I'm actually going to talk about the first time management technique that I used for an extended period of time, which was time blocking. And I want to go through my journey and kind of explain, what were the challenges and what was beneficial to using time blocking, because without this start, I wouldn't be to where I'm at right now. And I want to go through my journey with you guys. Hello everyone, my name is Jonathan Aquino and I help teach the next generation. So to put it simply, if you don't know what time blocking is basically on your Google Calendar or whatever calendar you have 24 hours and you set specific things that occur for those specific hours. So you might say from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. is your sleep. You might eat at specific times, go to the gym at specific times, do work at specific times. You do everything on a daily basis at a specific time, and you do your best to stay as strict as you can and as strict as possible doing that. So to give a bit of context where I was when I first started, I had just gotten back into college because I dropped the semester because I had a terrible mind space for it and I was at my lowest point, which I believe was 3 years ago. And I came back and I was like, okay, stuff has to start changing. And one thing that I could change was start using the calendar. So I put all of my classes on it, where the times and the time I have to get there, the times I would eat, and the times I would sleep. And that was all I had. I didn't set anything, but as time went on, I eventually started adding times to work, times I went to, my work, and, such and such. Like overall, this is going to be more of an explanation, as I said earlier, of what went well and what didn't work and what challenges may occur with time blocking. And before I go into it, I would recommend time blocking. And throughout this video, I will praise and, give all the support towards time blocking because it's such a simple thing to understand and is extremely helpful in the long term. So the first, kind of category I would label would be I had a lot more noticeability when it came to my productivity initially because I knew at these specific points in time, I had to work and I could only do that work. Or if I was studying, I could only study. Or if I was doing something specific like a class, that was the only thing I was focused on. What was difficult though is obviously when you're trying to integrate a new habit and trying to get used to something new, it was very difficult to adapt to it because, to put into perspective, I had gone for most of my life going chaotic in the sense of I didn't know when anything was supposed to happen. I didn't choose my schedule. I just happened to, show up. There was obviously, my timely things, my work, and then my college. And that was kind of it. That was kind of dictated what I did, but I didn't have them set anywhere. But with time blocking, I had the time block for most of my day and I had to make sure that I was doing everything. So when it came down to work times and school times, I was much more productive and I definitely felt a higher increase in terms of how much I was doing. And it was reflecting in the grades because I was very much a C and D student prior to doing this. And I slowly came from C to D, C to B. And then the following semester was a B to A student because of time blocking, because I allowed myself to use this to my advantage. And such a fantastic thing. Further on to this point, wow, difficult day. Further on to this point, it was the concept of better time management overall. Something that was extremely beneficial when it came to that was just kind of knowing what to do at what time. I had like a clear routine, a clear schedule. It wasn't before I would go, oh man, what am I doing right now? I was lost. I didn't know what to put my energy on because I had a lot of pent up energy, a lot of energy that was bubbling when I dropped out, but I just didn't know where to put it. When I started time blocking, now I know where to put my energy, put it into studying, my studies, my business. Like I could put my energy in whatever I dedicated that time to. But what I did have to tweak and such was over scheduling things, adding too many things without a buffer time in between. And a buffer time is like a bit of a window where you switch from one task to the next task or go to one location to the other location. So like a commute, that would be your buffer time from, let's say, your home to work and then vice versa. That's your buffer time. I wasn't adding any of it. What it was is as soon as the time block end for work, immediately switch to something else and then immediately switch to something else. While I was working, I eventually got exhausted I didn't completely burn out, but I realized that I was adding too many things onto the schedule and not enough recovery. So what I recommend, if you're going to time block, try and add 10-15 minute breaks in between everything, just so you can continue to, work at a high level, but not completely burn yourself out in a very short amount of time. Because what you want is for this to be a long-term thing and not a short-term thing. Because long-term, this can lead to so much success, so much productivity, and a lot of time back that you can use to kind of better yourself, better your business, better whatever aspect you may want. And you want to make sure you're not costing your health, if that makes sense. Now, I think a big part that really actually helped was the reduction of procrastination. This is when I started to notice that if I put my mind into it and dedicated time to the work, I didn't feel the need to push things back because I just wanted to finish and get the work done. I really wanted to push myself to finish the work at that time. I got a lot more things done. Now, granted, I still put a couple of things off, but compared to where I was the last semester where everything was put off, I didn't do any work, versus now where maybe I pushed one thing back a day or two because of procrastination. But overall, I mean, I didn't really have an issue with procrastination. I would say it fully went away probably after the 6 months, because then I kind of understood the breaking down tasks and how to do that properly. And this kind of laid the foundation to lead to that point. So where procrastination for me personally just isn't that much of a problem anymore. Like, I know that I can work and get it done. But what did happen a lot was, because I was so rigid and because I was so dead set on getting this correct, there were days where stuff came out of nowhere and I would feel guilt that I wasn't following the schedule, where maybe there was a day where I got sick. And because even though I was still sick, I still tried to get the tasks done. Or maybe an unexpected event, like I think it might have been during that time where my business partner got a big opportunity for us, but I was very much like trying to follow it. But I had to work on that, and I felt bad because I had to give up the thing that I was trying to build up for something that was, while amazing an opportunity, I did feel a bit bad. But it's kind of give and take. What I would say now, if I was talking to myself during that time, was stuff happens. It's okay. Opportunities come up, and if it's a good opportunity like the one I had, well, take it and just reconfigure the schedule. It's not the end of the world if you don't follow your time blocked schedule. It's really not. You might get done with things super fast, super slow, just as long as you're getting the work done and feel productive. I think something that I personally didn't truly internalize until reflecting on that time was the increase in discipline. And when it comes to discipline, I feel like I have a very high level of discipline because I was a Taekwondo student for a decade, and I've been teaching Taekwondo. I taught it for around 7 years. So to be at that high of a level that I was at, you had to have insane levels of discipline to do what I was doing and what my colleague was doing. With this, it was even more necessary to utilize that discipline that I'd built, because the point of the time block is to try and stay as strict as you can with it. It's very difficult to do that and be consistent, which I found the other issue was the consistency, because you would have, what I would do at the start was I would have so many things to do, but as my energy levels would fluctuate, there were days where it would get done, but there were days where I would try and push through and get it done despite me not being in the correct maybe mind space. Maybe I was sick, maybe I was like physically exhausted, and that would hinder my work overall. So it's kind of the idea of, do you really care 100% about the strictness and the necessity of the time blocking where it has to get done no matter what? Or do you care more about your health and maintaining consistency over the long term? If I was in that situation again, I would probably say to focus more on staying consistent and doing your best to make sure you stay on your time block. But if you, for some reason, something comes up and you deviate, don't worry, that's fine. Just make sure you come back on schedule to continue working and building up the habit, because I still, 2 years later, I still use this habit. Stuff comes up, I switch things around, but I make sure I come back and fix whatever time discrepancies I have on my calendar and get back to work and continue doing what I want to do in terms of time blocking. What I can definitely say were probably the two biggest positives that came out of doing this time blocking when I initially did it was lower overall stress levels and then having way more free time. So for lower stress levels, I didn't stress any longer about what I wanted to do at what time, what I wanted to work on. It was more so now I knew what I wanted to do and I knew at what time I was going to do it, and I knew for how long I was going to do it over a period of time. And that took away a lot of the stress that was I put upon myself because I wanted to do so many things, but I just beforehand didn't know how to do it. But because I know, well, I can now put all of that energy that would have been stressed into the work. And in turn, that would lead to more free time because things were getting done way faster. By the end of the 6 months, when I initially tested this out, I definitely noticed that I had so much more time to do hobbies and business work and, other fun activities because I cleared up a lot of time. When the classes ended for that semester, I replaced it with stuff that I wanted to work on. And I still had time left over to do other activities, social activities. And overall, it was a very, very rewarding experience to not only have less stress overall, but just be able to do whatever I wanted and getting closer to that ideal, if you will, work-life balance. I didn't know at the time that it was impossible, but I was getting closer and closer to that idea, and just a couple more things had to happen in the long term. But because I built up a solid foundation, they started to happen. And over time, I eventually, unlocked the true idea of work-life balance, if that makes sense. So overall, time blocking for 6 months and trying to stay dedicated to it truly helped me get on to where I am now, because now I'm doing many more time management and productivity hacks. I'm doing way more to improve and maximize what I'm doing. I now understand so many different, concepts, ideas, and I feel like I'm continuously learning because I started with the basic and fundamental idea of time blocking. And I would definitely recommend, if you want to try it, I would 100% recommend it. It's very easy to understand. I've made a couple of videos on it, dedicated to talking and creating a time blocked calendar. Once you have it set up, it's really easy to fix and manage and update. It's really simple. Shouldn't take you more than maybe 20 minutes to fully get everything optimized and such. But after that, you don't have to necessarily touch it unless things update in your life. So with that, time blocking for me personally is probably my favorite way to manage time, and honestly, pretty underrated, I would say. I don't know how often people talk about it, but I wouldn't know. So if you do want to learn more about time blocking, you should definitely check out my dedicated video on it, because I will go much more in depth in that. I believe I bring up the calendar and how to create and all the settings and such. So definitely check that out if you want to try out time blocking for yourself to kind of experience what I did. And if you want to take back control of your time and live more of a stress-free life, click the links down below in the description.